Hello, good morning, afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And today we're going to go over some ideas about filler words and pauses. I know earlier in the term, a lot of you mentioned that you want to reduce your use of fillers or your use of pauses. So maybe after this discussion, you'll have a little bit of a different idea about filler words, what purpose they serve, and how you might seek to sound more confident as a speaker in the future. So let's start with filler words, what they are, what purpose they often serve in conversation. So a lot of you have knowledge of the common filler words. Uh, um, well, you know, so basically, things like this, words that don't really serve a meaning in our sentences, but which we insert anyways when we are in conversation or when we are speaking in front of people. A lot of people, much smarter than me, have written about filler words and what they might mean. This one man, Noah Zandon, he wrote that we use words like and ah to hold onto the conversational floor. When someone holds the floor, I mean they sort of reserve their turn to speak. So saying things like in some ways is an indication of I'm not finished speaking yet. Let me collect myself and I will continue. So it allows us to plan what we will say next. So, in that respect, using one or two filler words every 30 seconds to a minute is really not the worst thing. It, in fact, sounds quite natural in a conversation for people to insert filler words from time to time. I would not say they do it consciously, but it is a very common occurrence among a lot of speakers of English and Korean, and almost every language out there has its own form of filler. However, Zandon goes on to point out that when we start to overuse filler words, they become crutches. Crutches that diminish our credibility and distract from our message. So, just like how someone with a broken leg will lean on a crutch to support their weight, sometimes we might use filler words too often in order to lean against our nervousness or our insecurity or our feelings of powerlessness. We will lean on things like filler words that oftentimes make us sound a little bit less credible and confident when we speak, such as this example from a researcher at the University of California at Berkeley.
So thank you first, Tanya and June, for organizing this amazing event and bringing together this group. Very important. Thank you. So in my talk, I'm going to examine one of the unintended effects that pursuing happiness can have on us. Now, happiness is, of course, one of the central aims that we have, maybe even the central purpose of our existence. The Dalai Lama has not read June's research yet. Maybe he would change his mind if he did. Evidence for the importance of this pursuit is, if anything, sort of increasing as of lately. So we just have to go into Amazon.com to see a great many books that are devoted to helping us understand happiness and helping us become happier.
So she used quite a bit of filler words, and let me ask you, what was her talk about? Yeah, something vague about happiness. I'm actually not sure. Unfortunately, I thought that in that presentation, her use of the filler words like proved to be quite distracting. I tended to focus more on her filler words than the actual message of her presentation. So let me introduce 3 practical speaking tips. These are posted up in my classroom, but I'm going to share them again because, quite frankly, I think that they are very important in order to sound more confident and fluent and credible as a speaker. For one, You can always try to use a little bit of a slower speech rate. Sometimes people like to have a false equivalency. Some people think that fluency and speed are the same thing. If you can speak quickly, it means you're fluent. Yes, that might be true, but it does not follow that just because you speak slowly that you are not fluent. In fact, a lot of people will recommend that you try to slow your speech rate just a little bit to show more confidence and charisma. People who are willing to occupy the verbal space, people who have the patience to speak just a little bit slower, can often come off as a lot more powerful and confident when they have to speak or give a presentation or stand before a class. You really articulate your presence in a strong way when you have the courage to slow down the rate that you speak. After that, simplify your statements. Sometimes saying something in 8 words is better than if you could say the same message in 18 words. So, any ways that you can reduce your arguments or simplify your sentences or insert a simpler vocabulary word for a more complex word will make your message more accessible and understandable to more people. And it will make your message and what you want to teach a lot more clear and easy to understand for a lot more people. So one way to sound more confident and fluent is don't reach for too many large words. Simply simplify your statements. And finally, one of my favorite recommendations is to use a pause. Collect your thoughts. Sometimes silence can be very powerful, and if we can grow comfortable in the silence that exists between our words, we show incredible confidence and power when we are speaking, whether we are in conversation or whether we are giving a presentation. Sometimes allowing your words to linger in the air can be really powerful for the audience. Allow them to think, allow them to reflect.